We'll check in on our tropical weather update. We've got two features to talk about. One in the Gulf of Mexico is Hurricane Bret, and far off into the Atlantic Ocean, we'll talk about Tropical Storm Cindy. But first up, let's take a look at what's happening with Bret, closest to home right now. And Bret, of course, is the hurricane. You can see more deep convection beginning to organize around the center of circulation. We do have a strengthening hurricane at the present time, and you can see the movement basically jogging its way towards the north. In time, I think more towards the west-northwest within the next 24-hour period. But even if that does occur, it's going to bring it very, very close to South Padre Island and also Brownsville, Texas. Although the official forecast, as of this time for the Hurricane Center, says probably somewhere south of Brownsville. You have to watch out over the east central or the northeastern coastline of Mexico for maybe some of the worst of the conditions. But again, everybody that lives in the western Gulf should monitor Bret. We can see some very fickle changes and even some some big changes occurring with the exact track of Bret over the next several days. So nothing is etched in stone as of yet. Now here's the very latest stats on Bret, Hurricane Bret, from 1 o'clock this morning Central Daylight Time. 22.5 degrees north, 94.6 degrees west, or some 210 miles east of Tampico, Mexico. Top sustained winds have been bumped up to 80 miles per hour. The forward movement was to the north, down 1 mile per hour to 8, and the pressure's also drifted downward a tad to 980 millibars. Everything right there spells we do have a slowly strengthening hurricane at the present time. Tropical storm warnings right now, where you see the red from La Pesca, Mexico, down to Veracruz. In the same area, we have hurricane watches in effect for the same regions, and this may be bumped up a little bit farther northbound too within the next 24 hours. Now, we're going to see some big-time impact from Bret for sure, even if it just mills around here for a couple of days. It does not strengthen a whole lot more, although it could. But we could be looking at a ton of rainfall again, beginning to affect east central and northeastern parts of Mexico, just south of Brownsville as it stands at the present time. Now, if you were wondering just how many people live across the east coast of Mexico and who could be impacted by Bret, well, take a look at this graphic right here. There are some big populations, by the way. The county which does serve the Brownsville region, Cameron County, has 326,000 people. Take a look at Tampico, Mexico. Almost 500,000 people live there. And in Veracruz, 500,000 people live there. So you've got some very mountainous terrain, a lot of people, and we could be looking at some flooding rains. And with that will come some mudslides and just a real mess if we take a look at a big-time rain event out of this. And we probably will, because a lot of tropical storms even, or tropical depressions, can leave their mark by dropping some very heavy rainfall amounts. And once you get orographics involved, some mountainous terrain, it can really enhance the rainfall. Elsewhere across the Atlantic Basin, not much is going on for the islands right now or the mid-Atlantic, but here we go. We've got Tropical Storm Cindy we'll touch base on in just a second. The islands westward, not too much going on across the Caribbean. You've got some afternoon showers and storms. The islands during the day on Friday looked fabulous, but farther to the east, yes, we do have something to talk about. This is Tropical Storm Cindy, by the way, 11 o'clock advisory Atlantic Standard Time, which is the same as Eastern Daylight Time. It was centered at 13.6 degrees north, 28.3 degrees west, or some 270 miles west-southwest of the Cape Verde Islands, which are located right in through here. Its movement west at 13, top sustained winds at 45, 1,001 millibars was the pressure, the estimated pressure. And it's looking a little bit healthier again. It was ragged a little bit earlier on. Looks like it's taking on more deeper convection. And the farther west it goes, it'll be looking at less hostile conditions aloft, lighter winds, so it could get cranking, and we could be looking at maybe a hurricane within a couple of days with Cindy. Taking a look at the eastern Pacific Ocean, we are still tracking Tropical Depression Fernanda. 8 o'clock advisory had it, 15.7 north, 126.7 west, 1,200 miles west-southwest of Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Movement was 8 miles per hour to the west-southwest, and top sustained winds 35 miles per hour, and the pressure rising, weakening system now at 1,004 millibars. Well, stick around, we've got more to go, including the very latest on Hurricane Bret in just a moment.
Everybody is.
Our tropical weather updates this go around is sponsored by Touchstone Energy, and there's the big story overnight, continues the big story all weekend long, and that is Hurricane Bret, beginning to work its way to the north and northwest very, very slowly. You can see we're looking at a strengthening hurricane right now. And a lot of banding features are going on at the present time. We're looking at a lot of deep convection right around the center of circulation, and that's always the sign that we are looking at a developing hurricane. And also we are looking at hurricane watches overnight being stretched as far northward as Baffin Bay, Texas. So you folks in the southern tip of Texas will have to batten down the hatches because we could be looking at a major hurricane on our hands within the next 48 hours, for sure, maybe within the next 36 hours, working its way more towards the west-northwest. And it's going to be real close to Brownsville, given miles, several miles north or south of that point, that we could be looking at some real hairy weather developing within the next 24 hours. And that's the reason why those hurricane watches have been stretched northward into American soil, and as far northward as Baffin Bay, Texas. The latest stats right now, let's show you what's going on with Hurricane Bret. The 4 o'clock advisory is in. It was centered at 22.7 degrees north, 94.7 degrees west. And look at that movement now, basically more north than west during the last 24 to 36 hours. And that is the scary part for South Texas, mainly right around Brownsville and getting up towards Baffin Bay. Top sustained winds now 90 miles per hour, still moving to the north-northwest at 7. We think more of a turn more towards the northwest in time, and the pressure is down to 980 millibars. We do have a strengthening hurricane. Officially right now, the hurricane watches stretch as far northward as Baffin Bay, Texas. We could still be looking at very squally weather today south of the border across eastern Mexico. And if you were wondering what's it like there as far as population, as far as terrain, well, check on this graphic right now. Lots of tall mountains. That means orographically we could be looking at problems developing there. And look at some of these cities and the amount of people they have in them, all the way from Tampico at 487,000, 500,000 people in Veracruz. All you have to do is jump across the border into South Texas, and Cameron County has over 326,000 people right now. That's a lot of people that will have to be starting to worry about what's going to be happening with Bret over the next couple of days. It is expected to continue strengthening. It could become a major hurricane within the next 36 hours, maybe even less than that. As you take a look at Bret, really nothing holding it back right now. The upper level low is back to the west, looking at high pressure still to the north right now, but again, not impeding its northward movement at the present time. See what else is going on across the Atlantic Basin. The big story, of course, Bret, that is closest to home right now. We have another feature, too, we'll talk about, and that is Tropical Storm Cindy. More on that coming up in just a few more moments. First of all, let's take a look at the Caribbean, and we can see we've had a flare-up of clouds and thunderstorms, mainly during the afternoon hours, now beginning to fade away from the land areas. Nothing is organizing here or across the islands. Beautiful conditions here. What a time to be on a cruise, at least for the time being. But farther off towards the east, you can see some clouds. And farther eastward than that, well, we've got Tropical Storm Cindy way out there. The 5 o'clock advisory had us centered at 13.7 degrees north, 29.2 degrees west, or some 330 miles west-southwest of the Cape Verde Islands. Top sustained wind 60 miles per hour. It could become a hurricane within the next 24 hours. Westerly bound at 10, and the pressure right now is at 997 millibars. And it looks like that northeasterly shear beginning to abate right now, which was affecting, well, the development of Tropical Storm Cindy. And it looks like it's going to become a little bit healthier now and just may become a hurricane within the next 24 hours. Have to wait and see what happens with that. And farther out towards the farther westward, we'll take you all the way to the eastern Pacific Ocean. This is Tropical Depression Fernanda, and you can see right now it's top sustained winds 35 miles per hour, moving westerly, west-southwestward at 10,006 millibars is its pressure. It is a weakening system, and there it is, not much left of it right now, moving on towards the west.
What's the weather going to be like where you're traveling to tomorrow? Find out with a wake-up call from 1-900-WEATHER. Call 1-900-WEATHER, 95 cents a minute from a Touchstone phone.
This program was sponsored by Touchstone Energy. It's the power of human connections.
Years before America's electric cooperatives forged the nationwide alliance, Touchstone Energy, neighbors built their own electric utility to power lives and communities. Now Touchstone Energy cooperatives serve millions of homes and businesses.
We have a hurricane to talk about and a tropical storm to talk about, which could become a hurricane on this tropical update brought to you by the Home Depot. I'm Bob Stokes. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning, and we'll also talk about what's going on in the country as far as storms are concerned. But first, the tropical update. Let's get right to it with the latest information on Hurricane Bret. Bear in mind, we just had a reconnaissance plane just go in, a recon plane, and they've just reported 1 millibar in pressure lower. So the lower the pressure, the stronger the hurricane, generally speaking. 980 millibars now. I don't know if that was the latest information. It may be down to 979 millibars. That equals to 28.94 inches of mercury on the barometer. Moving toward the west-northwest at 7 miles per hour, 90 mile per hour winds. Now this is expected to become a Category 3 hurricane, a major hurricane. That's the forecast. Could reach up to 115 mile per hour winds potentially tonight going into tomorrow morning. So we'll be watching this very carefully. This has generally been meandering toward the west-northwest, expected to become more westerly in time over the next day or so, but we'll be watching it. It's over very warm waters presently in the upper 80s, so plenty of energy to draw upon. Now here's a look at our hurricane watches from Tuxpan, Mexico to Baffin Bay, Texas. This is where we could see hurricane force winds. So we have this stretch because it's not a certainty, of course, where this would make landfall or even exactly when, of course. Right now, the best information we have is potentially it could make landfall just south of Brownsville. Now that is just according to our models. That could vary. Things could change. But we have the information previously displayed no longer valid in terms of tropical storm advisories. But however, we do have pretty good symmetry with our hurricane. A lot of deep convection, deep storminess as indicated by these reds. Very compact as far as hurricane range sizes are concerned, but plenty of warm waters to draw upon. Again, in some cases, the Gulf of Mexico waters in the low 90s in terms of temperatures, so plenty warm. Bear in mind the threshold, 80 degrees. This is again moving toward generally just a little west of north, and it's been wobbling somewhat, but expected to take more of a westerly course. A big ridge of high pressure over Texas, expected to steer it toward the east. Could make landfall Sunday night going into Monday morning, but that's just how we see the information right now. Still pretty far away from land. We'll be keeping you updated on Hurricane Bret. It is strengthening and quite well organized right now. Now, as we take a look at the rest of the tropics, let's find out what's going on in terms of the Caribbean. Some squally weather you can see over the western Caribbean. And as we check out Tropical Storm Cindy, it is 330 miles west-southwest of the Cape Verde Islands, right here. And there's really nothing to impede it from strengthening. Winds right now at 60 miles per hour around the center of circulation, moving west at 10 miles per hour. And it's still a good 4 to 5 days away from the Lesser Antilles, the islands. So we've got a long way. We've got a lot of watching to do as far as Tropical Storm Cindy. It is expected to become a hurricane, by the way, as it moves toward the west. There's a look, pretty healthy. It's not completely symmetrical. It's not even a hurricane yet, but it's got some good outflow, good banding. And as it moves toward the west, again, these areas of subsiding air that have been causing other storms to weaken, that has shrunk considerably, and the water temperatures are plenty warm. Tropical Storm Cindy. Tropical Depression Fernanda, you can see in the eastern Pacific, winds of 35 miles per hour, moving toward the west-southwest at 10 miles per hour. There's a look at Fernanda. Again, some squally weather, some storminess, and we'll be watching this. Of course, a big concern is in the Atlantic Basin. But as far as the U.S. is concerned, we could see some storms today, some isolated severe cells possible in the southeast, otherwise still on the cool and clammy side in New England. We've got some warm air overrunning some chillier air in the northeast. Otherwise, around this front, we could see some storminess, and around the cold front, or warm front, in the Midwest. And there's a look at our thunderstorm forecast. Your local forecasts coming up.
To cover hurricanes like we do at the Weather Channel, you need experience.
You need a team with experience.
Working together, getting it right for you.
The Weather Channel, keeping you ahead of the storm.
This program was sponsored by Home Depot, where low prices are just the beginning.
I was born to be a cashier. I've been a cashier for 35 years. That's my office right over there. That's where I do all of my business. Good muscles working. I know most of my customers by name. Really, I do. Hi, Gabby. How have you been, Rico? Thanks, George. You don't have to stand in my line because I'm fast. For me, it's an easy job because I have so much fun doing it. Our goal here at Home Depot is to have the lowest prices in town. If you find an item in another store for a lower price, we'll meet and beat that price. Does that make you happy, ma'am?
Makes me extremely happy.
People deserve good prices because money is hard to come.
On this edition of Storm Watch, we'll get to where the areas of strong storm possibilities exist across the country in just a moment. But first, with a review of Hurricane Bret, here's our tropical weather expert, John Hope.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. We're certainly glad to have you with us. And Bret is sort of holding its own this morning. The pressure has been falling a little bit, indicating just a tiny bit of strengthening. But on the latest advisory, still clocked at 90 miles per hour. Here it is right here in the western Gulf of Mexico. And then, as if we didn't have enough to worry about, we have Cindy out here, which is now up to 65 miles an hour and threatening also to become a hurricane as time goes by. I'll show you now the latest particulars on Bret here at 10 o'clock, centered at 23.4, 94.9. Winds 90 miles an hour. Barometric pressure was 978 millibars as measured.